Hello and welcome to NDTV Profit. You're joining us on this special broadcast where we are actually discussing the recent developments that have been happening at Byjus. Well, specifically the company behind the Byjus brand name, which is Think and Learn Limited. The founders of Think and Learn Limited, or Byjus, which is Ravindran Byju as well as his wife Divya Gokulnath, both have decided to sue the lenders who have taken charge of the company under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. They are claiming a $2.5 billion payout, saying that the lenders have conducted a raid on the company and that whatever they're doing is illegal. We have with us, to discuss this and further, we have with us Michael McNutt, who is the lawyer for the founders of Byjus. Michael, welcome to this conversation. Let me start this session with the question around what the founders are actually alleging about these lenders who have taken charge of the company and why are they doing so?
So thank you for the question. It's, for almost 1 year, we've been patiently addressing issues before various courts, and the $2.5 billion is frankly the minimum number we're going to ask for. The reason that we are asking for this, and we will ask not in India, but in foreign courts, the reason this figure is relevant is, remember, Think and Learn was a company with 85,000 employees, 250 million students learning. We have massive tax revenue coming to the Indian state. We have an entire pioneer of education creates this platform. And these US lenders come in with their agents, including Glass. And the lenders that came in are, in fact, not the lenders. Most of the lenders are actually the purchasers of the debt in the secondary market. And I know you're an expert on financial matters, so you'll appreciate this. So what you have here are secondary purchasers of debt. The company was valued at over $20 billion when this attack occurred, ready for a listing of $40 billion. Imagine the tax revenue. Imagine the number of students. So the damage is clear. The reputational damage is different. That's, as you know, it's indirect damage, reputational damage. But more importantly, the damage to Think and Learn has been staggering, and we consider without foundation. And what you cannot do is attack a company maliciously through collusion and through some unfounded claims. And we look forward to filing this claim very soon against certain parties, including certain lenders that appear to have colluded to attempt to create favorable court decisions in the way they are presenting things and in things they are omitting to tell the court, which we consider to be a violation of certain law. And so we will be filing those claims very soon.
All right, Michael, the question that I have next is about the court orders that already exist. There's a court order in the Delaware Bankruptcy Court. Even in India, there are allegations of financial mismanagement by the founders. How do you respond to these questions, Michael?
Yeah, well, first, no court in any jurisdiction has found Byju Ravindran or Divya Gokulnath responsible for any monetary damage to Think and Learn or any subsidiary. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is, and you kind of hit it on the head there, you said, look, there's a court decision here and a court decision there, and we're not really sure what to make of it, right? We're not really sure what's going on with all these allegations. Well, first allegation that you mentioned was that the creditors of the company say that there was financial mismanagement. I'm not aware of a specific claim of financial mismanagement in any jurisdiction. I think that's a misconception. I think the company entered bankruptcy as a result of a claim by BCCI. That claim was settled. The payment was made for the BCCI settlement. And unfortunately, the Honorable Supreme Court still is evaluating different applications. There's a number of applications. So, we still have confidence that the honorable courts of India will ultimately release Think and Learn from the bankruptcy procedure because of the BCCI settlement. So that's in India. In the US, the allegation is much more basic. There's not just an allegation, there's a judgment by Alpha, a former subsidiary of Think and Learn, taken over by the lenders, and technically they're not the lenders, by the way. They're the owners of the debt. They weren't the lenders. They're the owners today of the debt. They took over Alpha, and they took it over, by the way, for no money. They just took the shares. And they are claiming the full value, which the full value is in contestation. So what you have is an allegation that somehow the director of a company was responsible to report to the lenders certain things. We dispute this. This is the allegation you see in the media. There's no court judgment saying anywhere on earth that Ravindran, who was the director of the Alpha subsidiary, that he was required to ask for permission for anything he did. In fact, it's the opposite. He was not required to ask permission. The allegation is that he should not have transferred money if he was concerned that the company Alpha would not repay the loan. Now, sorry for the long answer, but there was no problem to repay the loan. Alpha was repaying the loan. Alpha paid every interest payment that was required. The problem in the loan is a manufactured problem. The problem in the loan is because a financial audit being completed by a third-party auditor was not completed on time and was not sent to the creditors, which is a non-financial breach of an undertaking, which is very complicated to say that certain papers, were supposed to be given to the lenders on a reporting basis, and they were not given. They were not given not because management was not finishing the audit, but because the audit wasn't done on time. And this is because the audit is very complicated. With operations in multiple jurisdictions, it's very normal that big multinational companies need more time. The second complaint, also not financial, was that an Indian subsidiary was not allowed to give a corporate guarantee paperwork signed by the central bank because the law changed in India. So the credit was given, the law changes in India, the subsidiary cannot give the guarantee that the loan asked for because of a law change in India, and as a result, the creditors say, this is a breach. So you have a US court saying, I don't care what Indian law says, you have to give us the guarantee anyway, which frankly is ridiculous because it should have resulted in an amendment to the loan, not a breach. Should have resulted in the loan simply being reorganized to take into account for the change of law in India. So, the resolution professional has been criticized by the courts. In fact, the IRP, the interim resolution professional, was dismissed. A new resolution professional is now appointed, but even he is being contested in the court. There's a court hearing, I think, on July 29th for this proceeding. And the court proceedings themselves are simply efforts to regain control of Think and Learn by Byju's founders and stop this aggression, in our opinion, unwarranted aggression, from these second market purchasers of credit who are pretending they are the lenders. They are not the lenders. I think that's very important for the population to understand. The public should understand these are not lenders. These are sharks who came in and bought debt in a distressed market and are attacking to collect their money instead of waiting for the loan to be paid in 2026. The loan was not due until 2026. They've accelerated the loan on these non-financial breaches in order to take back money and gain a profit quickly. And they're using the courts to try to do it.
So, Michael, to be fair, the current lenders, they're still lenders. You can't really call them, debt holders. I mean, the whole definition of a lender is somebody who owns the debt that is owed to the company, by the company to the lender. So they are lenders by definition, right?
Okay, my reply to that is the definition lender is in the credit agreement. So it's true, they are called lender, capital L. However, the loan agreement says that if you are a distressed lender, in this case, a disqualified lender, because remember, the loan agreement has certain conditions, which says if you buy in the secondary market, and if you are a distressed fund, a special type of equity fund that buys distressed debt, you can be disqualified. And they were disqualified. And the loan agreement also says, when you try to go collect your money in a bankruptcy, when you accelerate the loan, you are allowed to collect the value that you paid for the debt, not the value of the debt. So an example is, if I buy $100 million value of the 1.2 billion, I buy the paper, but I only pay 50 million for the paper, I cannot claim 100. I only can claim 50. And this is the problem with the 1.2 billion. It's not 1.2 billion. The loan agreement is 1.2 billion, but the value of the debt is substantially less, even frankly, probably less than half the value. And that's why this is a manipulation. That's why this has not been understood in the courts, because until now, Byju Ravindran never had a place to put anything in court. There was no case against him in Delaware. It only started in April. We are contesting the service. We are contesting the jurisdiction of the Delaware court over Byju. This is in the very beginning, and against Divya Gokulnath, by the way. So we are contesting that jurisdiction, and that's why we will bring a claim for 2.5 billion. Because the perception created in the market is, oh, they owe 1.2 billion. Excuse me, that's not accurate. That's not accurate. Certain lenders have been disqualified. It is a fact. They are disqualified. And until they apply not to be disqualified, they are disqualified. And the value of their debt is substantially less. So I have to respectfully say that, yes, technically they're called lender in a contract, but the value of that debt is what we're fighting over. They're fighting over money. And effectively, they're trying to more than double their money fast while destroying this company to do it. This is a corporate raid. It's that simple. It's a corporate raiding equivalent to a short selling operation of a stock. This is a short selling operation against a credit.
Now, Michael, it has been alleged by the lenders that Byju Ravindran has been asked by the court to come and respond to certain specific questions. Raju has also been held in contempt, his brother Raju Ravindran. How do you respond to these questions?
Let me tackle first the Ravindran, during the Delaware procedure, which was from last year. There was an order for contempt because he could not provide certain information. However, much of the information requested is information that would be on Think and Learn servers. Now, when the interim resolution professional entered, a short while after entering, more than 2,000 emails have gone missing from the servers. And there's a court case about these missing emails. So the US court basically says, look, that's not our problem. We asked you, we ordered him to give it, he didn't give it. And as a consequence of that, he's in contempt. Now, this is before the judgment for 533 million. After that judgment is issued, the purpose of that document information is gone. So now that contempt is gone. So right now, today, Ravindran is not in contempt, and there's a motion to put him in contempt, but right now he is not in contempt. So that's Riju. Concerning Byju Ravindran, well, I'll do Divya first. Divya Gokulnath, there is no even suggestion she is in contempt. There's been no request of Divya to provide any information. So Divya right now has no request for information. She is not in violation of any order. She is completely complying with all the orders across the planet. So no issue. Concerning Byju, Byju was asked to provide information even before service of the complaint. Byju provided his answers. It's not that he didn't answer. He provided his answers, and the court decided his answers were not sufficient. So the court would like him to give more information. We are addressing that court order now, but also we are appealing that court order, because in order for the court to give that order, the court had to first determine it had jurisdiction, and we are contesting that order. So there's an appeal filed against that order. It's actually called a reconsideration, and this is publicly available on the docket. So this is not information that is secret. This is very transparent, these procedures, and we welcome the US court to review this application. So I think it's premature to say there is a problem. It's the opposite. Byju is doing everything he can to comply, And Byju has the same problem as Riju. The emails are gone. Divya, if she's ever asked, will have the same problem. The emails are gone. So I think the real question is, the courts in India kicked out, effectively, the interim resolution professional because he did not act properly. This is in a court decision. And they decided that he was not transparent with the court. That same resolution professional has right now a criminal investigation in front of IBBI, which is being determined. And also, there are complaints and lawsuits against him by multiple parties for his actions related not only to, but including the disappearing emails. So we need to make sure we understand who's really on trial here. Think and Learn is being destroyed by the IRP not doing things. Apparently, that's what the court said. By the BCCI settlement not getting put through the courts quickly enough, and hopefully our good, honorable courts in India will solve that problem, and we can then move forward. And also, Glass attacking through a subsidiary in Delaware, controlling that subsidiary, Glass telling that subsidiary, for example, we fire your lawyers. Riju's lawyers were terminated as a director. Think and Learn's lawyers were terminated by Glass. So there's a judgment against them where they have no legal representation. So right now you have a very dirty game going on where Glass is attacking using all legal mechanisms. So that sense is not dirty. Dirty in the sense that they are using quite effectively the differing court processes and different legal regimes to try to gain advantage in order for the holders of the debt to make their profit as fast as possible.
Now, Michael, the way this $533 million has been transferred, that is a bit suspicious, specifically the way in which this company called Camshaft was portrayed. It was portrayed actually as a multi-billion-dollar fund, when actually some news reports point out that it was actually a franchisee for a pancake restaurant. So I'm just trying to understand, how do we take away the specter of doubt when it comes to this specific transaction?
Okay, the first point, and forgive me, is just the nature of the structure of the transaction. So let's start with that. Think and Learn wanted to borrow $1.2 billion on a relatively short period of time to repay it in 2026 when the company would be listed for approximately 30 to 40 billion. Okay, so the 1.2 billion was actually less money than was offered. The subscription, the book that was offered was much higher, around 1.8. Okay, so Think and Learn itself, as an Indian company, due to currency controls and things like that, the bank, JP Morgan at the time, designed a structure where a Delaware subsidiary would be created by Think and Learn, and that Delaware subsidiary would receive the 1.2 billion as the borrower, and Think and Learn would provide a guarantee. Okay, and some others, a guarantee, but not as borrower. So Think and Learn is not the borrower, and the founders are not the borrowers either, by the way. So you have Think and Learn has a Singapore subsidiary. The Singapore subsidiary makes a Delaware subsidiary, and the Delaware subsidiary borrows the 1.2 billion. That's the start. Now, that 1.2 billion is never supposed to stay in the subsidiary. That 1.2 billion is supposed to be spent and invested as quickly as possible, because they have to generate the returns and grow the company in order to take the company public. So this is a pre-IPO financing in effect. Okay, now the 1.2 billion enters, and it goes to 4 principal investments: Epic, Thinker, Think and Play, and this. It's effectively trade finance loan. Okay, so what happens? The other 3 are done, no problem. Those companies are growing, those are investments in company. And for tax purposes and for accounting purposes, Alpha purchases a limited partner interest in Camshaft. Camshaft itself did it as it's called a side pocket. They made a dedicated transaction to receive the money from Alpha and immediately lend the money to the procurement company the international procurement company that Think and Learn had been working with for over a year and a half before the credit. So the money is never supposed to go into camshaft and stay in camshaft. It always goes Alpha Camshaft Trade Finance. The procurement company receives the money and it buys equipment that the students are using, the tablets and things like this. It buys the equipment, it helps to finance the marketing campaign, provides other services, and these are services that it's paid a commission by Think and Learn. So Think and Learn is buying the services, and the 533 million is used to purchase more than 533 million in value through this international procurement company. No problem. That's not tricky. That's not sneaky. That's not suspicious. That's something that Think and Learn had been doing for a year and a half before this credit. So the problem is in the market, people think camshaft is important. Camshaft is irrelevant. Camshaft is not relevant at all because the money was going always from Alpha to buy an interest in a fund because that's secure. They buy an interest. They can, instead of loaning the money and risking to get the money back, they take an interest in the fund. The fund lends the money to this UK company to use for buying for Think and Learn. And Think and Learn guarantees that the loan will be repaid back to camshaft, repaid back to Alpha, and repaid back to the lenders eventually, because anyway, Think and Learn is guaranteeing the loan. So it doesn't matter. Think and Learn as guarantor, if Alpha doesn't repay the loan, Think and Learn must repay the loan. So there's too much emphasis on this camshaft because camshaft at the end of the day is not relevant at all. They are just a vehicle used to facilitate Think and Learn's growth and their procurement program. This is something the lenders know, by the way. This is something the lenders try very hard not to talk about in court because they pretend, what happened to the money? Where did the money go? How did the money go? This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. They know exactly where the money went. They have a court case in Delaware against the UK company because Byju, Ravindran, camshaft, everyone said, you want to know where the money went? It's easy. It's easy. It went to that company. And that company bought stuff for Think and Learn. You, Glass, you control the RP. You control the bankruptcy of Think and Learn. Ask your resolution professional to ask the auditors where the 533 million was spent by Think and Learn. And you will have an answer to your question. This 533 million is just a toxic, false story in the media. It's just completely false what's been presented because everyone is trying to pretend it's very complicated. It's not complicated at all. It's very, very basic.
Now, there have been a lot of questions raised that this suit that the founders are filing, it's a diversionary tactic to avoid paying dues to the lenders. How are you going to respond to that? That should this be looked at as a diversion?
I agree. It is a completely diversionary tactic, not by Byju's founders. It's a completely diversionary tactic by Glass. It's a completely diversionary tactic. That is the problem. Instead of transparently telling the media, yes, we know that the 533 million went to the UK company. We know that it went to buy things for Think and Learn. We know the things that it bought things for Think and Learn to grow. We know that. We don't want to tell you that because that's not very interesting. We want somehow to make somebody, Byju's founders, pay the money back even though they are not the borrower, they are not the guarantor. As a financial expert, you are well aware that if Think and Learn gave the guarantee, the owners of Think and Learn stock are not required to repay the loan. There's no obligation for a owner of stock to repay the debt of the company. Otherwise, every bankrupt company, the people who are damaged would go after the owners of the stock, IBM, whoever. That's not the case. So it's a complete false story that Byju took the money, Divya took the money, Byju took the money. This is ridiculous. They should pay back the money. This is even more ridiculous from a legal perspective. What they have done, the founders invested over $800 million into this company. After they invested this money, this attack comes. I agree with you. It's a diversionary tactic. The problem is the diversion is by Glass, not by Byju's founders.
Okay, so I'll ask my final question in this entire conversation, which is about the money, right? I mean, it doesn't matter at what value it is, whether it's the $1.2 billion that the creditors are claiming is owed to them, or as you said, the value of the debt might be much lower. So let's assume that whatever an amount is arrived at, are the founders willing to pay that fair amount, whichever amount is determined by the courts? Will they be able to end this entire ordeal for the thousands of employees of Think and Learn who are currently sort of in the dock?
We will continue to fight in the courts. We are filing the $2.5 billion claim to restore the value, or some of the value at least, that's been destroyed by these attacks. We understand that in the eventuality that the lenders should be paid some amount, in that eventuality that is right now hypothetical, then Byju's founders would necessarily, in order to protect the brand and to protect the company and protect the employees, they would find a way to refinance the group in order to take care of these lenders. So I think that the commitment to the company is already demonstrated. Byju's founders have themselves put in more money than the value of the claims related to this credit. Over $800 million has been put into Think and Learn by the founders. I think that shows very clearly their commitment to the employees, to the platform, and to the development of the Think and Learn group.
All right, thank you so much for that, Michael McNutt, the lawyer for the founders of Byjus. He's, of course, representing them in a case which they intend to file, where they're claiming $2.5 billion worth of a payout from the creditors to the founders. This is against, of course, in the original case where the creditors are claiming that the founders have to pay them $1.2 billion. We'll see how this plays out, but of course, do stay tuned to the NDTV Profit.